Ollie London was on Dr. Phil, and apparently he was on Dr. Phil right after I did my last video. Coincidence? I think not. But you know what? I watched the clip with Dr. Phil, and I kind of felt like I needed to make another video. One, because it'll get views, and two, people really love a pointless circle jerk about some weirdo on the internet. But I found the interview he had with Dr. Phil, and this was just a small clip that was released. I found it a bit interesting, right? I'll never be ashamed to quote a bad author if the line is good. By the way, I just stole that quote from Roman statesman Seneca. But point of the matter is that I think there's a lot to learn here.
Beneath it all, you're a pretty nice guy.
Thank you.
A pretty decent guy. And secondly, I think you're really selling yourself short.
So, I know all the K-poppies in the comments are gonna talk about how he's said and done bad things on the internet, the whole racism thing, yada yada yada. I get that, I understand that, and I understand where you're coming from. Might I just add right now to the K-pop stands in the audience, the fact that you guys say that you are a collective, and that you guys are doing a service by canceling someone, I hate that. It is the most annoying thing in the world. Oh, you gotta cancel this person, cancel that person. I don't wanna hear it. Stop. Stop. Canceling's done. Leave that in 2019. His actions will affect him in due time, and that's very clearly something that's happening already. You don't need to go out of your way to say a bunch of shit on social media, because at the end of the day, it's not affecting anything. Now, I understand a lot of K-pop stans probably don't want to hear that, but let's be real here. How much of an impact are you making by taking Ollie London and saying weird stuff about how he looks or his opinions? Really, I did that video on his music just cause I wanted to. But with this, it kind of brings up an interesting point, something that I've kind of touched on before. When Dr. Phil's saying that Ollie London isn't being his own best friend, he's basically saying, you aren't prioritizing yourself and your feelings, which is something that we can see in Ollie London. And while, yeah, Ollie London is definitely a cringe lord, it kind of brings out the internal empathy in me to understand where Ollie London is coming from outside of all the delusions of grandeur, because people like Ollie London don't just exist, they are made. There's reasons behind why people like Ollie London act the way they do.
I don't know. It just makes me happy. It's like a facade. Deep down, I feel sad about myself. Like I'm always trying to change myself, and I never feel good enough. You know, when I look in the mirror, I never feel beautiful. I never feel good, and I get so much hate online as well, and that just kind of adds to that feeling. So it just makes me feel better about myself.
Now, I understand the idea that Ollie London could be sitting here and blowing smoke up his ass, especially when he's saying that to Dr. Phil. He's saying what Dr. Phil wants to hear, and I get that, right? But here's the thing. In this day and age, especially the social media day and age, people look at social media and want to look a certain way. They want to look like the people on their social media feeds. And with the rise of K-pop and the rise of this very fetishized Asian culture, I think we're seeing more often than not, oh, surprise, surprise, people start to prioritize this look as being the look they want to achieve. Ollie London is by far the most extreme example of that, but different things from Asian culture have seeped in to Western culture. I mean, look at all the clothes you can buy now with Japanese characters, with Chinese characters. None of you know what they mean, you don't understand them, but you buy them anyway because they look cool.
And yes, by the way, I know that BTS has the whole idea of loving yourself and that self-love mentality, but guys, how many times do you actively act that out throughout the day? How many times do you actually sit down and love yourself and the way you look wholly all the time? It's a great notion, but it's something you have to work for and strive for every day. And also with loving yourself, that would go out to extending to other people. How many of you have also talked about self-love and why it's important, but then turn around and say something bad about Ollie London or how he looks? If you're gonna say something about him, at least say something about his opinions rather than his appearance. However, it's most of the time that I see people talking about his appearance. Just had to add that in. I forgot to add that part about BTS and how they feel and self-love.
On top of that, in Korea, it's much more socially acceptable and kind of seen as taking care of yourself to do things like getting plastic surgery. So what we're seeing here with Ollie London is really a perverse extension of both what we kind of have with social media these days and how people perceive themselves in comparison to others, comparing how they look to others and basing their beauty or who they are as a person off of how somebody else looks.
Do you realize that you've basically taken over for the bullies?
What do you
They
mean?
quit and you took over for them. The bullies bullied you, then they went away, but you said, okay, bye, I got this. I'll bully Oliver. You leave. I'll take over. I'll continue to put him down. I'll continue to criticize him. I'll continue to criticize his looks. I'll continue all the things that you were doing. I'll do when you're gone. You've taken over for the bullies, and you're continuing to kick your own ass.
Okay, so basically what Dr. Phil is getting at here is that he's saying that Ollie London, if all of the people disappeared tomorrow that are criticizing how he acts and behaves on the internet, he would still be his own worst critic. Which, for most people, I assume that you're able to point out the most amount of flaws in your own face and how you look better than anybody else can. I'm pretty sure most of us could stand in a mirror and say, I don't like that about myself. I don't like this about myself. And you can run down a laundry list of things, but then other people won't notice that in you. Now, I understand that Ollie London is getting lots of plastic surgery and doing all of these things, but I think there's a message here in saying that a lot of people don't recognize the flaws in yourself that you notice all the time, which is what's happened with Ollie London. He feels there's lots of flaws, and he feels that in order to perfect those flaws, to get rid of them, he needs to look Korean. He needs to be Korean. Now, at the end of the day, the decision he makes are his decisions, but we have to at least wonder or question where he came to these conclusions, which is why I bring up things like social media and how people compare themselves to others.
I want you to really think about not abandoning yourself and who you are, because in the final analysis, it's you and you, buddy.
I know.
You can do all this other stuff, but in the final analysis, everywhere you go, Oliver goes with you. And you ought to make peace with him and learn to love that part of who you are.
Basically, what Dr. Phil is getting at here is the idea that no matter how much Oliver changes who he is, right? If he makes himself look 100% Korean perfect tomorrow, inside he's still Oliver. So he can't change that regardless of whatever he does to himself. It's never going to fix the situation. This is something that's pretty common in a lot of people that get plastic surgery. They feel inferior, and so they go to these extreme lengths to feel better and more superior and develop these delusions and this idea that by getting another surgery, by doing this, by getting this other thing, oh, they're gonna finally have what they want, right? But really, what ends up happening is that Oliver gets that something that he wants from the surgery and then doesn't feel any better. Him getting the surgery didn't change his life. It didn't make it better. Now, this being said, if Oliver gets enough surgeries to certain things, he could actually damage himself or end up dying. That's a very real possibility, you know? And I understand some people think Oliver's an awful person. At the end of the day, I really don't care. But there is a point where that could happen. That's a complete possibility. It's not like, you know, it's impossible. It's completely possible. It's something I think we really need to recognize, right? Because we spend a lot of time making fun of Ollie London and how crazy he is. But it wasn't until I saw this that I actually decided to like go, what have I been doing? You know, like, am I really like okay in doing this? Like, and this is something you should think about if you're criticizing somebody in your videos. You should be questioning all the time the ethics of whether or not it's okay to do that. Personally, I feel if I wasn't questioning myself, there'd be a problem. You know, I think that ability to change over time allows me to be better in the future. But what happened around the same time that Ollie London did this interview with Dr. Phil? And this is the part that kind of like pushed me to say, you know, I don't, like, are you listening? Are you just doing this for the fame? Like, the reason people can't take Ollie London seriously or feel bad for him is because he does stuff like this.
Teddy bear?
We'll always be teddy bears to me.
And to give each other a hunk of burning love. Do you
Yeah,
promise?
we're gonna have a hunk of burning love.
All right, then by the powers vested in me the king, are pronounced to be partners in life, you may kiss.
Ah, yes, a vanity marriage with BTS star Jimin. I honestly, this is so extreme that one can look at this and go, well, he's clearly doing that for some negative attention because it's the only thing he can get. Let's think about it like this. Ollie London, if he wants to be a serious musician, which, at least to my understanding, even before this K-pop thing, there was a whole musician part of him. If it's not a delusion of grandeur, if it's not him wanting to be like BTS because he sees BTS as the peak of beauty, as what he wants to achieve, boy, this just does not sit well. On one hand, I really do want to feel bad for Ollie because it's very clear that he's beating himself up at the end of the day, but then he turns around and recognizes that, oh, the only way I'll have a career is by being an absolute crazy person, which is something I've seen in one other guy who spills kombucha over all of himself and screams, and we all know who I'm talking about. Granted, there is a point and it's a difference between infamy and fame, but Oliver seems to be lost in the idea of one or the other, and let's be real, his lifestyle wouldn't be able to be maintained if he just started acting pretty normal tomorrow. Now, he is kind of like a sponsored person for like a plastic surgery firm, right? So it's not like he gets surgeries for free, but he probably gets them much cheaper. So if he stopped being crazy, if he stopped being this over-the-top person, if he stopped getting surgeries, that would all go away. It's really just an awful cycle. I can't see that Ollie London would be able to get out of this position that he's put himself in without removing himself from that position entirely. It would cause him to uproot his whole life. He might have to go into rehab or do something, go to therapy to get it fixed, but it's something that's out there. I don't think people have ever, like, stopped. I just feel like people are so fixated with being like, this man is nuts, that they don't realize, like, this is a real addiction. Like, this is definitely a real addiction. I don't know. Am I, like, doing a video on this? Am I being too empathetic? Or, like, am I giving people what they want by doing a video like this or talking about this thing? Because, like, guys, like, an addiction is not just like, oh, I'm gonna down alcohol every day and it's gonna be great, but it's still an addiction. You know, you're addicted to getting these things. There's different addictions that aren't drug related. You can be addicted to anything. People can be addicted to food. Hell, there are people who eat nothing but hamburgers every day. But I just feel like all the time we talk about Ollie London, it's just like, man, he did another dumb song. Look at Ollie London, he got another surgery. Crazy guy, married Jimin. It's like, yeah, but like why?
Well, Lee has undergone 15 surgeries in 6 years and to change his looks. Now, something that he was bullied for growing up.
Oh, what a surprise! The Dr. Phil video explains that he was bullied growing up. Oh, I wonder where this idea of feeling like he needs to always look beautiful came from. He used to look so good, man. Man, oh man. That's really... You know, part of me, like, I look at this and then I turn around and I look at the Instagram and I'm like, why do you keep doing that? Like, why? You know, but then I look at this and I'm like, oh, this isn't a crazy cartoon character. Like, this is a guy. Like, this is a person, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm conflicted, you know? I'm just doing a reaction today. No script, no nothing, you know? So I'm discovering this with you guys as we watch this, you know? I got a lot of conflicted feelings on Ollie London, the person. His music's bad. His music's definitely bad. That's a definite. But like, there's a delusion here and there's definitely a real genuine issue, you know, and it makes me wonder, do these videos that YouTubers make contribute to that? Do they make it worse, you know? It's like, and Ollie London, I understand he does dumb stuff all the time. I mean, like, didn't he go after my boy iNabber for how he looked? What did they say? Those in glass houses should not do nude yoga. But it's just... I think if there's one thing that we're able to take away from Ollie London, it's this idea of learning to accept oneself and how you look and who you are as a person in order to feel better about yourself, right? To realize that those things you notice about yourself, a lot of people don't notice. And that if they don't notice them, are they truly problems or are they just something that makes you unique? You know, if it's not something that's like actually damaging to your life, is it really a problem when you think about it? It doesn't impact you. I don't know. I think it would be a good idea to look at Ollie London and say, hey, what can we learn from this? Well, we can learn that we should love who we are as people, and that just because you look a certain way doesn't mean that you are ugly. And by the way, Ollie London, let me just tell you right now, you having a round face is probably not the reason that women broke up with you or cheated on you. I don't know. This was just an off-the-cuff video, you know. I needed some space in between my last couple of videos and this to like write a script. So tell me what you think or how you feel about Ollie London, or if I might have opened your mind a little bit, or if not, or if I'm a buffoon who doesn't understand. Tell me what you think, is basically what I'm saying. And if you'd like to support the channel and the work I do, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/FPSDiesel. I put out exclusive content on there pretty frequently, so if you'd like, you can support me for either $3 or $5. It's a low price. Please help me out. I'd like to be able to take this full time. With that being said, you can always follow me on social media, except I'm taking a social media detox right now, so I'm not very active. In fact, not active at all, but I'm out there. With that being said, Internet, goodbye.
If I find my way home, yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy? Don't you still amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Don't you still amaze me?